Welcome to Story Fluent Path. At the end of the story, we will talk about some English vocabulary.
It was dawn in the bustling heart of Crestfall City, where the streets hummed with the clatter of early morning deliveries, coffee carts steaming on corners, and the distant sound of horns. Nestled among tall brick buildings, narrow alleys, and iron fire escapes stood an unassuming bakery. Its faded sign read Ella's Hearth, but it was more than just a bakery. It was a sanctuary. Ella, a baker with a heart as warm as her fresh bread, had owned the shop for years. Her flour-dusted hands had kneaded dough through seasons of joy and hardship. Crestfall, a city known for its stone walls and its hard-nosed pace, seemed a cold place at times. Yet, the warmth from Ella's bakery, like the smell of cinnamon rolls in the air, melted even the toughest hearts. Inside, the scent of fresh-baked goods mingled with the rich aroma of coffee, the wooden countertops still holding the warmth from the night's last loaf. Ella, petite with curls streaked with flour, had a quiet way of making everyone feel at home. People came for more than the pastries. They came for her smile, her listening ear, and her never-ending kindness. But behind the warmth of Ella's bakery, there was a secret, a debt she could no longer manage. If she didn't pay by the end of the month, she would lose her beloved shop, her livelihood, and her connection to the community. It was a particularly cold night when the door to the bakery creaked open long after hours. A stranger, cloaked in a dark, rain-soaked coat, stepped in. He was tall, with an air of mystery that instantly made Ella pause. The flicker of the street lamp outside cast an odd glow on his face, making his features appear sharp, almost otherworldly. "I've heard about your kindness, Ella," he said, his voice deep but soft. "And I've come to offer you something in return." Ella blinked, surprised. She had never seen this man before. Crestfall was full of strangers, but something about him was different. Still, her kindness overrode her caution, and she invited him to sit by the fire with a fresh loaf of bread and hot tea. The stranger introduced himself as Lucan, a traveler who had seen many cities, but none like Crestfall. As they talked, Lucan's eyes often wandered to the hearth, as if it held some ancient magic only he could see. Then, he revealed his offer, a single loaf, baked with care, that could change someone's fate. It would bring immense fortune to anyone who consumed it, but at a cost. Ella hesitated. Could she bake such a loaf? Could she bear the consequences of using such magic? Days passed, and Ella found herself thinking about Lucan's words. The pressure of her looming debt weighed heavily on her shoulders, and the thought of losing her bakery was unbearable. She decided to take a risk. She would bake the loaf, just once, for herself, to save her bakery. Ella worked through the night, carefully mixing the dough with ingredients she knew well but infusing them with the intention Lucan had described. As she kneaded the dough, she whispered her wish, that the bakery would be saved, that she could continue to serve her community. The next morning, as the bread cooled on the windowsill, something strange happened. A line of customers appeared, more than she had ever seen. Each one bought not just one item, but several, until her shelves were bare, and her register was full. The bakery's name spread across the city, and soon, the debt collectors came with smiles instead of threats. Ella had saved her bakery, but at what cost? Weeks went by, and Ella's success continued to grow. But with it, strange things began to happen. A regular customer, who had once been a struggling artist, suddenly became famous overnight. However, his art began to lose its soul, becoming hollow, lifeless. Another woman, who had wished for her lost love to return, found him again, but he was different, cold and distant, a shadow of the man she once knew. Ella realized that the magic in the bread was not as simple as Lucan had described. It granted wishes, yes, but twisted them in ways that left the recipient worse off. The more people consumed her bread, the more the city seemed to fall under a shadow. Crestfall's bright lights dimmed, and a strange tension hung over its streets. Ella knew she had to stop. But how? Desperate, Ella sought out Lucan. She found him in the same alleyway where he had first appeared. He watched her approach, a knowing smile on his face. "You can't simply undo magic, Ella," he said calmly. "But you can give something in return." Ella knew then what she had to do. To break the spell, she would have to give up the very thing she had wished to save, her bakery. The thought broke her heart, but she knew it was the only way to free the people of Crestfall from the twisted fate her magic had wrought. In one final act of kindness, Ella baked a last loaf. This time, she baked with the intention of release, of gratitude for the time she had spent with her bakery and the people she had helped. As the bread baked, a soft light filled the bakery, and the magic that had weighed so heavily on the city began to lift. Ella closed her bakery that night, but she knew that her act of selflessness had saved her community. In the weeks that followed, the city returned to normal, brighter, and more vibrant than ever. And though Ella no longer had her bakery, she found a new calling, helping others with the same kindness and warmth she had always given through her bread. Conclusion: the moral. In the end, the grateful baker teaches us that true success comes not from what we take, but from what we give. Ella's journey reminds us that kindness, when given freely, has more power than any magic. And sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones that set us free. Please subscribe to this channel to get new story update. Thank you. Let's learn some English words. Sanctuary, a place of refuge or safety. After a long day at work, the quiet library became her sanctuary where she could relax and read. Otherworldly, something that seems strange or unnatural, as if from another world. The singer's voice had an otherworldly quality, as if it echoed from a distant dream. Eerie, strange, and frightening. The abandoned house at the end of the street gave off an eerie feeling, especially at night when the wind howled through the broken windows. Intention, a plan or purpose behind an action. Her intention in volunteering at the shelter was not only to help others, but also to find a sense of purpose in her own life. Selflessness, the quality of caring more about others than oneself. The firefighter's selflessness was clear as he rushed back into the burning building to save the trapped family, without regard for his own safety.